The financial foul Instagram post garnered more likes than Marcus had expected, including supportive comments from several local farmers and, surprisingly, the County Agricultural Extension Office. Excellent heat management strategy, commented Willow Creek Egg Services. Consider adding electrolytes to the water during extreme temperatures. Marcus took the advice seriously. While Wall Street had taught him to research obsessively before making decisions, chicken farming had taught him humility. He'd made enough rookie mistakes in his first year, like the Great Rooster incident that had the entire neighborhood awake at 4 a.m., to know that experienced farmers were worth listening to. The following morning, he drove his battered pickup, a deliberate downgrade from his former BMW, to the agricultural supply store. The air-conditioned interior offered blessed relief from the heat that had already reached 95 degrees by 10 a.m. Well, if it isn't the chicken banker, called Earl, the store's owner, from behind the counter. The nickname had stuck after Marcus had absent-mindedly tried to pay for his first bag of feed with his corporate credit card, accidentally flashing his former executive ID. What can I do for you today? More of that organic feed your fancy chickens prefer? Electrolytes, Marcus replied, leaning against the counter. And anything else you'd recommend for chickens in this heat? They're struggling, especially Dividend. She's always been the delicate one. Earl nodded sagely. Got just the thing. He disappeared into the back, returning with a small bottle of purple liquid. Add this to their water. Works for show chickens down in Texas. Should work for your Wall Street birds. As Marcus paid, the bell above the door jingled. Both men turned to see Patrice Willoughby striding in, looking distinctly out of place in her tennis whites and designer sunglasses. Good morning, she said crisply, making a beeline for Earl. I need to speak with the manager about appropriate fencing options that comply with Section 12 of the Willow Creek HOA guidelines. Earl shot an amused glance at Marcus. You're looking at him, ma'am. Owner, manager, and chief manure shoveler, all in one. Patrice faltered briefly, then regained her composure. Excellent. I'm preparing a presentation on approved agricultural aesthetics for our community, and I need visual examples of proper farm equipment. Traditional colors, designs, that sort of thing. Planning some farming of your own? Earl asked, though everyone in town knew Patrice's yard was maintained by a landscaping service that arrived weekly in matching uniforms. Research purposes only, she replied, pointedly ignoring Marcus. Our community has standards to maintain. Marcus slipped the electrolyte bottle into his pocket, suddenly eager to return to his chickens. Something about Patrice's research made him uneasy. Back at Chicken Paradise, Marcus found Henrietta standing sentinel by the pool while the others took turns cooling off. He added the electrolytes to their water supply, then settled into the lawn chair he positioned in the shade of his old oak tree. From here, he could watch his flock while catching up on his surprisingly successful chicken blog, his latest post, From Bull Market to Hen Market. Week 157 was drawing questions from city dwellers fantasizing about their own escape to rural life. Marcus took his responsibility seriously. He didn't sugarcoat the challenges alongside the rewards. As he typed a thoughtful response about predator protection, he noticed Dividend had ventured out from the coop to test the pool water. The smallest of his hens, she'd been struggling the most with the heat. She delicately dipped one foot in, then the other, before settling into the shallow end with a contented cluck. That's it, girl, Marcus encouraged, snapping a photo for his next update. Beat the heat like a market downturn. He didn't notice the occasional flash from Patrice's upstairs window, where she was methodically documenting every non-regulation element of Chicken Paradise, the blue pool foremost among her growing catalog of violations. As Officer Rodriguez drove back to the station, he couldn't keep the smile off his face. In 22 years of police work, this call would definitely make his top 5 most memorable. He'd already composed the story in his head for Friday night beers with the department. His radio crackled. Rodriguez, you still out there? Just heading back, he replied. Chicken pool situation has been resolved. A snort came through the speaker. Chief wants your body cam footage ASAP. Tell him it'll be worth the wait. Back at the station, Dave found a small crowd had gathered around the dispatch desk. Jessica, the dispatcher who'd taken Patrice's call, was recounting the conversation for her colleagues. She called it an unauthorized poultry swinning facility. Jessica was saying as Dave walked in, "I thought she was pranking us." "The reality was even better," Dave announced, unplugging his body cam. "Wait till you see the PowerPoint presentation." Chief Grayson appeared in his office doorway, arms crossed but eyes twinkling. "Rodriguez, tell me you didn't waste department resources on a chicken pool." "Not at all, sir. I provided community education about proper use of emergency services, waived a potential misuse of $911 fine, and investigated a reported public health concern." Dave's face remained professional, but his eyes matched the chief's humor. "Also documented evidence of the coolest chickens in the county." The bodycam footage was uploaded to the department computer and played on the break room TV. Officers crowded around, coffee mugs in hand, as Patrice's presentation filled the screen, her voice explaining the domino theory of aesthetic decline, while the actual chickens paddled contentedly in the background. "Pause it. Go back," Officer Martinez said suddenly. "Is that a chicken doing the backstroke?" The frame was frozen, showing Henrietta floating on her back, wings spread. "Synchronized swimming," Dave confirmed. "The little one with the polka dot feathers can do a dive too." Chief Grayson shook his head, but he was smiling. "All right, everyone back to work. And Rodriguez, good job handling it without escalation. Last thing we need is an HOA dispute making the county blotter." As the room cleared, the chief pulled Dave aside. "That woman's called 911 for non-emergencies before, hasn't she?" Dave nodded. 3 times in the past year. Neighbors' wind chimes during quiet hours, unauthorized garden gnome on the Patterson property, and the Thompson fence dispute. Maybe time for a more formal warning. "Already noted in my report, sir, though I'm thinking this public humiliation might be more effective than any citation." The chief considered this. "True, but if she calls again, I'll personally deliver the misuse of emergency services citation," Dave promised. Back in his cruiser for afternoon patrol, Dave's phone buzzed with a text from his wife. "Lisa, did you really get called to a chicken pool today? The moms at Emma's school are all talking about it." Dave blinked in surprise. How had news traveled so fast? He typed back, "How did you hear already?" The response came immediately. "It's all over Willow Creek community page. Someone named Marcus posted about it. His chickens have an Instagram." Dave laughed out loud. Of course the chickens had an Instagram. He made a mental note to follow them when he got home. His daughter would love it. Another text came through, this one from Lisa's mother. "Tell Dave thanks for protecting farm animal welfare. We're making chickens have rights too. Signs for the next HOA meeting." Dave stared at his phone. The Johnson family had lived in Willow Creek for 6 generations and were influential members of the farming community. If they were getting involved. His radio crackled again. "Rodriguez, we've got another call from Willoughby." Dave sighed. "Don't tell me. She's reporting unauthorized chicken social media accounts." "Not exactly," the dispatcher replied, amusement evident in her voice. "She wants to report cyber harassment because the Santiago Chicken Instagram has gained 200 followers in the past hour, and people are tagging her in the comments." Dave looked heavenward for patience. "Tell her to direct all social media complaints to the department's website, and I'll follow up tomorrow." As he turned his cruiser toward his next call, an actual emergency involving a tractor blocking the main road, Dave found himself genuinely looking forward to the HOA meeting next week. For the first time in Willow Creek history, it promised to be anything but boring. Back in her car, Patrice was shaking, not from fear of the approaching chicken, but from rage. Her perfect confrontation had been derailed by Marcus's infuriating calm and those ridiculous chickens with their human-like personalities. She'd rehearsed so many scenarios, but none of them had included being advanced upon by a wet hen named after a stock market term. "This requires immediate intervention," she muttered, scrolling through her contacts. The HOA board wouldn't meet for another week, and Harold Jenkins would likely side with Marcus anyway. The old farmer had a soft spot for anyone who treated their animals well. Her thumb hovered over Willow Creek Town Council, but she scrolled past it. Mayor Johnson was a fourth-generation farmer himself who kept miniature goats as lawn ornaments. He'd laugh her out of his office. That's when she saw it. The contact she'd saved after her fence dispute with the Thompsons last year. Willow Creek Police. Non-emergency. Her thumb moved to tap it, then paused. Non-emergency, she said aloud. This is absolutely an emergency. She opened her phone app and deliberately dialed 911. The response was immediate. 911, what's your emergency? Patrice cleared her throat, adopting the professional tone she perfected during her pharmaceutical sales career. Yes, I need to report a serious code violation in the Willow Creek community that requires immediate intervention. What kind of code violation, ma'am? The dispatcher sounded wary. A homeowner has installed an unauthorized water feature for livestock that violates multiple ordinances. It's a public health and safety issue, she added, improvising. Standing water can attract mosquitoes carrying West Nile virus. There was a pause. Ma'am, is anyone in immediate danger? Property values are in immediate danger, Patrice replied without hesitation. And potentially public health. Another pause. Are you calling about a swimming pool? A chicken pool? Patrice clarified, feeling a twinge of uncertainty for the first time. A pool for chickens? The dispatcher's professional tone slipped momentarily. Yes, Patrice confirmed, doubling down. An unauthorized poultry swimming facility threatening community standards and potentially creating a mosquito breeding ground for disease vectors. The homeowner has refused to comply with regulation removal requests. She could hear typing in the background. And your name, ma'am? Patrice Willoughby, Willow Creek HOA compliance officer, she replied, straightening in her seat despite being alone in her car. More typing. And the address of this chicken pool? After providing Marcus's address, Patrice added, the responding officer should be prepared to document the violation. I have a complete file of the property's non-compliance history. I'll make a note of that, the dispatcher said neutrally. Please wait at your location, and an officer will be dispatched when available for non-emergency calls. The call ended, and Patrice felt a surge of vindication. She'd given the dispatcher perhaps a bit more information than strictly necessary, but she needed to ensure they understood the gravity of the situation. She couldn't have neighbors thinking they could flagrantly disregard community standards without consequences. Through her windshield, she could see Marcus still in his chicken run, now sitting cross-legged on the ground, while two of his hens pecked around him. He was recording something on his phone, probably another of those ridiculous social media posts that had gained him a local following. Her phone chimed with a notification. She glanced down to see that Marcus had tagged the Willow Creek HOA in yet another post. This one showed Henrietta standing on the edge of the pool, wings outstretched as if directing traffic. The caption read, Henrietta says, no lifeguard on duty. Swim at your own risk. #ChickenBeach, #HOA approved, just kidding. The post already had 27 likes and comments like, those chickens live better than I do, and HOA equals hens overall. Patrice's knuckles whitened as she gripped her steering wheel. She glanced at her watch. How long would it take for the police to arrive? And how would Marcus react when they did? Patrice's dedication to HOA enforcement wasn't merely about property values, though she'd cite those statistics to anyone unfortunate enough to be cornered by her at the mailboxes. The truth, which she'd admit to no one, was that control was her comfort zone. Her ex-husband, a high-powered attorney who'd left her for his paralegal 3 years ago, had once called her pathologically orderly during their final argument. She'd taken it as a compliment. Her home office, dubbed Command Central in her private thoughts, was a monument to organizational precision. The far wall featured a detailed map of Willow Creek with color-coded pins marking active violations: yellow for unapproved mailboxes, green for lawn infractions, red for structural violations. A disturbing number of pins clustered around Marcus Santiago's property. Chicken pools, she muttered, opening a fresh manila folder and labeling it Santiago Violates number 17 in her perfect penmanship. She placed the morning's photographs inside, printed on her home photo printer for immediate documentation, and added them to a filing cabinet organized alphabetically by offender. Patrice's phone chimed with a calendar reminder. HOA meeting. Preparation. 120 minutes. She'd scheduled herself a full 2 hours to review her presentations and rehearse her arguments. The other board members, Harold Jenkins, Betty Templeton, Frank Liu, and Miguel Gonzalez, had proven frustratingly resistant to her proposed amendments. Last month's disaster still stung. Her carefully crafted 27-page proposal to ban wind chimes, noise pollution, and aesthetic inconsistency had been voted down 4-1 after Miguel pointed out that his grandmother's wind chimes had been hanging on her porch since 1978, predating the HOA itself. They just don't understand what's at stake, she told Aristotle, her Persian cat, who regarded her with the same disdain she showed her neighbors. One exception leads to another, and suddenly we're living in chaos. Aristotle yawned and returned to grewing himself on his designated cat bed, beige, to match the office decor. Patrice opened her laptop and pulled up her PowerPoint, titled Maintaining Agricultural Authenticity, a Visual Guide to Violations. She'd created it 3 months ago, but had yet to find the perfect violation to justify presenting it to the board. Marcus's chicken pool was the opportunity she'd been waiting for. She added a new slide with the heading Case Estudie, Authorized Aquatic Livestock Facility, and inserted that morning's photos. The bright blue of the kiddie pool against the natural browns and greens of the chicken run was visually jarring, exactly the evidence she needed. For dramatic effect, she added a split-screen comparison. On one side, Marcus's chicken spa, on the other, a historic black and white photo she'd found online of a traditional farm from the 1930s, with chickens pecking in the dust of a Depression-era yard. She added text boxes highlighting the stark contrast. Historical ACURC versus modern ELSO. The final slide of her presentation featured a domino effect animation she'd spent 3 hours perfecting. The first domino, labeled Chicken POOs, toppled into painted COOPs, which fell into decorative feeders, and ultimately crashed into a final domino ominously labeled Property Value DCI. Patrice smiled as she watched the animation play through twice. This was her most persuasive work yet. She checked her watch, still 40 minutes before she needed to begin rehearsing her presentation. Plenty of time to review Section 7, Paragraph 3, and prepare her legal interpretation. She pulled the HOA rulebook toward her, running her finger along the binding where she'd added gold tabs for quick reference. The original document had been a mere pamphlet when she joined the board. Her extensive amendments, clarifications, and appendices had transformed it into something resembling a government budget report. She considered it her legacy to the community. As she flipped to Section 7, her phone pinged with a notification. Someone had tagged Willow Creek HOA in a social media post. Patrice's blood pressure spiked as Marcus's chicken pool photo appeared on her screen, already accumulating likes and supportive comments from other Willow Creek residents. The caption read, "When the HOA says traditional farm aesthetics only, but your chickens deserve better. #chickenspa #beat the heat Willow Creek living." The chicken pool scandal continued to ripple through Willow Creek in unexpected ways. By the morning of the emergency HOA meeting, the Financial Foul Instagram account had surpassed the town's official page in followers, and local businesses had started offering chicken-approved specials. Earl's Agricultural Supply created a window display featuring kiddie pools in various colors with a sign reading, "Traditional Farm Cooling SOLE Guide at Homeowners. HOA Opinions, VRI." The Willow Creek Diner added Henrietta's Power Breakfast to its menu, scrambled eggs with a side of blueberries, served with a tiny paper umbrella. Patrice had barely left her house in days. Her phone had been inundated with notifications as strangers from across the country discovered the saga through social media. Some messages were sympathetic. HOAs exist for a reason. But most were decidedly not. She'd finally turned off her phone and retreated to reorganizing her files, finding comfort in alphabetizing and color coding. Meanwhile, the Willow Creek Historical Society had become an unexpected hub of activity. Martha Jenkins had mentioned the controversy to her fellow volunteers, who immediately began digging through archives for examples of historical livestock care practices. What they found surprised even Martha. As the community center filled for the emergency meeting, conversations buzzed with excited energy. Marcus arrived to find himself greeted like a minor celebrity, with several people asking to take selfies with him. He'd brought Henrietta in a small pet carrier as evidence, and she peered regally through the mesh at her admirers. At precisely 7:00 p.m., Harold Jenkins called the meeting to order, his trusty hammer gavel creating a silence that vibrated with anticipation. First item of business, he announced, adjusting his reading glasses, the chicken pool situation. The crowd erupted in cheers and applause, with several people waving hastily made signs featuring chicken silhouettes and slogans like, "Let them swim," and "Cool CHICKs, needy stool pedo walls." Harold waited for the noise to subside before continuing. "Now, before we hear from the involved parties, I'd like to invite my wife Martha to present some findings from the Historical Society." Martha, a diminutive woman whose strength belied her size, she could still lift hay bales at 80, made her way to the front, carrying what appeared to be an ancient photo album. She placed it carefully on the podium and adjusted the microphone. "I've lived in Willow Creek all my life," she began, her clear voice commanding attention. "My grandfather built our family farm in 1927, and I grew up learning traditional farming methods." She opened the album to a marked page. "This is from the summer of 1936, the worst heatwave in county history. Look what my grandfather created." The projected image showed a weathered wooden trough with several chickens standing in it, while a young boy poured water from a bucket. "My father," Martha explained, pointing to the boy. "Cooling the chickens was his daily chore during that summer. Grandpa said cool chickens meant better eggs, and better eggs meant survival during the Depression." She flipped to another page. 1954, my father rigged a sprinkler system for the chicken yard during another heat wave. The photo showed chickens running through droplets of water, catching light like diamonds. Page after page revealed ingenious historical solutions for livestock cooling, some far more elaborate than Marcus's simple pool. The final image was particularly striking. A farmer had created a series of small wooden platforms in a stream where chickens could stand safely in the flowing water. This, Martha said, tapping the image, was considered the height of innovation in 1967. Farmer Jennings won a county fair prize for his Chicken Creek cooling system. She closed the album and looked directly at Patrice. "Young lady, I've served on the Historical Society board for 42 years. If anyone understands traditional agricultural aesthetics, it's me, and I can tell you with complete certainty that taking care of your animals in creative ways during extreme weather is the most traditional farm practice there is."